Yes everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I'll be discussing why Mauricio Pochettino needs to be sacked by Chelsea sooner rather than later. Before we get into it though, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, let's get straight into it. Brought in on the 1st of July last summer after they sacked Thomas Tuchel in the previous season, Pochettino signed after being sacked by PSG a year before, or 2 years before. The former Spurs boss never really sat right with Chelsea fans, I feel. He's spoken about his love for Spurs in quite a few interviews, and if I'm a Chelsea fan and I'm hearing his love for our rival club, you know, it's not good, to be honest. I'll be quite angry. Chelsea also inquired about Zidane, Luis Enrique, Simeone before taking the punt on Pochettino. I couldn't see how the other ones would have worked, to be honest. I think Zidane would have brought that sort of aura to Chelsea. You know, playing for Zidane is crazy, so I think players will, you know, love to be in that team. Didn't think it'd be more about tactics with Zidane. It would be just more about the aura that he brings and the expectation that he brings as well. Luis Enrique, I don't think he would have been a great choice, to be honest. I don't think he'd be a good Premier League manager, to be honest. Obviously showed his class in La Liga, obviously in the Champions League with Barca. PSG at the moment, he's doing good, doing okay. Obviously losing their big man, Kylian Mbappe, but I just don't think he'd be a good fit for Chelsea, to be honest. And Diego Simeone, I think that man just belongs at Atletico. Like he gets linked with every club. I remember before City got Guardiola, he was linked with there constantly. United, I bet he's had a few links there, but he's always stuck with Atletico, and he just suits Atletico, to be honest. They spent £600 million on transfers before Pochettino came in. So he knew what he was signing up for. You know, he knew that the owners love to spend, they love to splash cash it willy-nilly, and they look great in pre-season, to be honest. You know, you got lots of Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku linking up in pre-season. You know, there was a lot of positive talk going into the season from Chelsea and Chelsea fans, and rightly so, because you know what we saw in pre-season was they were lighting it up. You know, against, I know obviously it's pre-season tournaments, but they were doing well. Jackson looked like a complete different player to what he is now. And yeah, ever since the season kicked off, it's been nothing like pre-season, you know. And yeah, it just hasn't looked great, to be honest. We can't talk about Pochettino's Chelsea stint without transfers, I feel. Obviously, as I said, they spent £600 million on transfers before his arrival, so he knew what he was signing up for. He then spent another £400 million after that, after his arrival. So there is no way, I think, that Pochettino would not have signed with Chelsea if he didn't have the guarantee he could bring in the players that he wanted. You see with managers, after they've been sacked, say, I mean, they want my transfers, they want my players that I wanted to bring in, but there is no way you'd be Pochettino, knowing how much Chelsea spend and how much they throw money at players, there's no way that he would have said, oh, it doesn't matter about transfers. You know, he would want to stamp his mark on it. He would want to pick his own transfers, pick his team, if you like. And he got that, you know. He signed Lavia. You know, Lavia bought in for £58 million. And he's only played 32 minutes of football this season for Chelsea. That is horrific, you know. He's had a few big injuries, and only to play 32 minutes, and you cost £58 million. That is crazy. We're going to Nkunku as well. Obviously, he was bought before Pochettino come in, but he was still a new signing when Pochettino arrived. £55 million. He's had 3 separate injuries at Chelsea already, Nkunku. And I think he's been a bit unlucky, to be honest. I think he has 2 or 3 cameo appearances. He's done okay. But again, 55 million, you know, it's chucking money at players. Obviously, Nkunku was great at Leipzig, but again, it looks like another flop signing this season. He may be good in the future, I'm not saying he won't be, but at the moment, it's a big flop. Sassy as well. Ever since he come in for me, I just never warmed to him, to be honest. He just seems like he's a big, strong centre-back, but that's it. I feel like he's got no coordination. You see him misplace passes a lot. You see people force mistakes out of him quite easily, to be honest. And I've seen him being bullied off the ball many times at the moment. You know, you got lots of Matthias Cunha. I saw Antonio as well when they played West Ham. Absolutely bullying him. Every chance they got, they were getting at him. I just feel that Sassy has been a horrible signing, especially for £42 million they bought him in for. And he hasn't been able to lock down that defence. You know, you expect him to take over. Thiago Silva, obviously, apparently it's his last year at Chelsea. You know what I mean? You've got to step up, and he hasn't. Him or Badiashile, to be honest, but obviously Badiashile was bought before Pochettino come in. On to Moises Caicedo, you know, £110 million from Brighton. Crazy money on such a big risk as well, you know. And I think Caicedo made about 40 appearances before he signed for Chelsea, 40 Premier League appearances. So You know, it's again a massive risk. He's been very average, I feel, for Chelsea this season. You know, you've seen him line up with Enzo Fernandez, and it just seems like there's a lot of chemistry between the two. Enzo Fernandez seems like he's been told to have played more advanced. Caicedo, I just feel like he's a bit reckless when he hears the man back. You know, he's flying into challenges. Should have been sent off on a few occasions, to be honest, in multiple games. But yeah, I just don't feel like he's been another great signing. 110 million. I don't think he'll ever pay back that money unless they win a Champions League or a Premier League and he's the main guy. He has made some awful signings, Pochettino. Oh, but obviously you've got to touch on the good ones. You know, Cole Palmer, he's been brilliant for Chelsea this season. 10 goals and 7 assists from midfield. You know, he's been lighting it up. I never thought he'd be this good. I knew he'd be good, obviously coming from City. I saw games of him where, you know, he was starting to light it up, especially at the start of the season, you know, in the Copa Europe and the Community Shield. He was amazing. So for me, Cole Palmer, great signing, great choice as well. I think Nicholas Jackson as well is someone who gets a lot of criticism, but he's doing okay. You know, I don't think he's a natural born striker. I feel like he's more of a winger. You know, getting to the byline, using his pace, crossing the ball in for a tall number 9, really. Yeah, I just think Nicholas Jackson, 35 million, you know, he's got about 7 or 8 goals this season, which ain't bad for a guy who I feel is playing out of position. And yeah, I just feel like he's been forced to play striker. Obviously, they've had so many injuries, Broha and Kunku. You know, that Washington, the Brazilian guy, hasn't really, you know, hit the ground running. He's barely playing. So yeah, I just feel like Nicholas Jackson gets a little bit more stick than he should, to be honest. But overall, the bad outweigh the good with these signings. I know injuries play a big part, but Chelsea need to be winning now. You know, they're making all these signings for the future, but at the moment, you know, they're missing out on Europe 2 seasons in a row. That is going to impact them heavily, especially with getting new players in, because if they're seeing how Chelsea are from the outside, they're like, why would I want to join there? Do you know what I mean? The money as well, the money coming in. You know, they're not getting Europe season in, season out now. All this FFP will catch up to him, because Todd Boehly, I know what a great businessman he is. You know, he finds loopholes in the transfer system, which is fair enough, but you can only hide it for so long, especially if you're not getting the income that you need, and which Europe brings as well, Champions League brings. So their squad currently just seems like a collection of the best players around Europe compiled into one. You know, their team seems like it's just a mishmash of players from loads of different backgrounds, all clogged into one, and it's just catastrophe, really. You see players, they're more like individuals rather than a team. You know, one thing that really stood out for me, and Rory Jennings highlighted it as well in his channel, was the way that Conor Bradley was just bullying Chilwell, and Harvey Elliott as well were both ganging up on Chilwell in that EFL Cup final, and they squared off at one point, and you see, you know, the Liverpool players crowding around, you know, trying to get some hostility in there, and no Chelsea players really stepped up with Chilwell. You know, they just cowered it away. I feel it just shows a comparison between the two. You know, Liverpool, a quality team, you know, a unit together, and Chelsea, you know, not really backing their men. Yeah, it just shows a bigger picture of what Chelsea are like behind the scenes. So yeah, for me, there's no leaders in the team. There's no chemistry, and there's just no fight. They need leaders. They need leaders badly. They don't need another selection of wonder kids that could be great in 5-10 years. You know, they need the players now. The likes of Gallagher, you know, he's been outperforming everyone this season, and he's one of their own. You know, he's had that Premier League experience at Crystal Palace, at Chelsea, played in the lower leagues as well, in the Championship, League One, and he's showing his experience. You know, he's running games. He's running the show. I think that's quite embarrassing as well. How can your best player be the guy that you didn't need? Also, looking to list him on the transfer list as well, and he's made you look a right mug because he is one of your best players. On to the embarrassing results now. You got a 3-1 loss to West Ham in their second game of the season. West Ham had 10 men from the 67th minute onwards, and that was at 2-1. And that's when the top teams, you know, they punish them, they finish them off. But Chelsea ended up losing 3-1, and that was the game where I was saying about Disasi being bullied. That game, he was just Antonio was all over him. Yeah, West Ham deserved the win, to be honest, even with the 10 men. Lost 1-0 at home to Nottingham Forest. Dominated possession with 76%, yet Forest had more shots on target than them. I feel like that just, you know, sums up their season, to be honest. And a 2-0 loss at home to Brentford as well. This is probably the most mediocre Brentford side we've seen in years. You know, they're languishing down in 15th, you know, 16th place. Again, Chelsea had the majority possession of 69%, and Brentford still had double the shots on target at Stamford Bridge. You know, it's just horrific play. You know, when you're looking at Brentford's creative players, obviously they had no Ivan Toney in this game. You know, and Mbeumo, Vissa, yeah, they're good, but they're nowhere near the standards of, you know, your Chelsea's and all that. And yet they're getting more shots on target than them in a game, more than double. It's just crazy. And then we go to St James's Park where they've been beat 4-1. Newcastle again aren't the same team as they were last year, I feel. They're a very more beatable side this year at home, but yet Chelsea got spanked 4-1 and they just collapsed really in that game. Lost 2-0 to Everton, who are fighting relegation this season, and yet again somehow Everton had more shots on target with Chelsea having 72% possession. You know, when you see Everton getting more shots on target, you know, again a team fighting relegation, you know, fighting points deductions, not got a great side to be honest, not got great attacking players. You know, you see Beto, he's sort of, you know, gangly. There's no real coordination in his play, I feel anyway. And yeah, they're getting spanked 2-0 at Goodison. It's not acceptable really. And of course, without mentioning, you know, the League Cup final. Now I think people went a little bit overboard with this in terms of the stick towards Chelsea, but any team in the top half of the league, I feel, seeing that Liverpool side that they faced, obviously Gravenberch going out injured in 30 minutes gone, you know, no Salah, no Nunes, no Jota. I think the top 10 sides would have fancied their chances and, you know, gone for it. And I think Chelsea did go for it in a certain way, you know, at a quality shots going in, but I thought Kelleher done really well on the day. But yeah, Chelsea should be winning that, you know, especially with the ability of both sides, you know, towards the end of the game. You know, that extra time where they had a lot of youngsters on, I think the likes of Dan's, Ben Doak as well, you know, loads of different academy products coming in. And you're seeing them, and you're also seeing Chelsea sitting back and allowing Liverpool to keep going and the fans to get momentum. And they just sort of shriveled up in extra time. I feel that's where Pochettino really let it down for me in terms of his tactics. Because you see in them types of finals, the big games, Pochettino, he's never been a big game manager, and it showed because it seemed like he wanted to play more for penalties than anything else. You know, sitting back, trying to hold it in when you got 18, 19-year-olds running at you. You know, you got to be the ones going for them. You got to be the ones taking the game to them. Yeah, I just feel like Pochettino isn't the man. He isn't the man to take Chelsea forward. Obviously, his comments about Spurs, you know, he's always had his love for Spurs, as I was saying. His history not being able to get over the line in big games. You know, PSG in the Champions League, you know, bowed out against City. I remember that. Even though they had a team of superstars, really, never really got it over the line with them. And obviously, throughout his whole Spurs tenure, to be honest, he was never the guy to bring home the trophies. Obviously, he made them better, but in terms of getting silverware into the club, nah, never had a job of this magnitude as well, of rebuilding an entire team, especially with youngsters as well. You know, there's, again, as I was saying, you know, 19, 20-year-olds in the team. He's never had a job like this, and it's brave to take it on. You know, again, from the outside looking in, it looks such a hard job to take over. But he took it, and it just hasn't worked out. Like, I think we all knew it wouldn't happen, to be honest. What happens after Poch? I think for me, if I was Todd Boehly, I'd swallow my pride and I'd get Thomas Tuchel back in. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel is leaving Bayern at the end of the season through a poor season with Bayern. You know, they've probably lost out on the league to Bayer Leverkusen. Not been great in the Champions League, you know, that they got through against Lazio in the end, but they've been shaky, you know, they've not been the same Bayern as we're used to. And yeah, for me, I'd just bring him back in, you know, the fans love him. He's got the pedigree to win trophies, installed belief and a fight in the team and a philosophy. You know, I think Chelsea have been lacking that with Poch. He can get Chelsea competing in the games where they should be winning, you know, against the likes of Brentfords, you know, the likes of Everton's, them results where they should have got a result and they didn't. And he could possibly get them back into Europe as well, you know, they got the conference, they've got the Europa League. I feel like Thomas Tuchel could get there, you know, maybe another 1 or 2 signings, sell a few of the players that have not worked out this season, get 1 or 2 in, and I feel like Thomas Tuchel could definitely get them to a conference/Europa League space. But yeah, that is that for that video, guys. What do you guys think? Should Chelsea sack Pochettino, or should they stick it out of him till the end of the season? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, who do you think would be a good replacement? Obviously, I suggested Thomas Tuchel, but obviously you guys have got your own opinions, so get them down in the comments as well. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.